Yesterday was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. Graduation, 4 years, sleepless nights. And when I walked across that stage, my family's seats were empty. They forgot my graduation. So, while they were at a barbecue, I hit post on this. $250,000 in startup funding. One post, and suddenly the people who ignored me can't stop calling me. They forgot my graduation, but they'll never forget this launch. I still remember the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the campus cafe on graduation morning. The whole university buzzed with proud parents, flowers in their hands, phones ready to capture the big moment. I had spent 4 years working 2 part-time jobs and building a side hustle just to afford tuition. This day was supposed to be a payoff, a victory lap, and a thank you to the people who'd been in my corner. At least, that's what I thought. In the days leading up to graduation, my family's group chat had been strangely quiet. When I texted, "Ceremony is at 11 a.m., tickets at will call," all I got were thumbs-up emojis. I figured they were planning some kind of surprise, or maybe just busy. I wanted so badly to believe they'd show up. After all, I'm the first in my family to finish college. That meant something, right? That morning, I ironed my gown twice to smooth out the creases. I slipped my diploma cover into my bag, imagining the photos we'd take. I kept looking at my phone, expecting a "we're on our way" text. Nothing. I tried to shake off the sinking feeling in my stomach. "They'll be here," I whispered to myself. They have to be. When I finally walked into the arena, rows and rows of families waved signs and balloons. I scanned the crowd for a familiar face. My heart dropped. The seats I'd reserved for my mom, dad, and sister were empty. Completely empty. Just 4 little cards with our last name on them, flapping under the AC vents. The ceremony started. Names were called. Cameras flashed. My name echoed across the loudspeaker, and I walked across the stage alone, smiling for a photographer who didn't know my story. No cheers, no hugs waiting at the end. Just me and a stranger handing me my diploma. Afterward, while classmates took group pictures with their families, I stood off to the side with a forced smile. One of my professors asked, "Where's your cheering section?" I muttered something about traffic and quickly walked away. Inside, I was crushed, but also strangely clear. This wasn't the first time my family had skipped something important. They'd missed my debate finals in high school. They forgot my scholarship dinner. But graduation was supposed to be different. It was the culmination of every late night, every loan payment, every sacrifice. I sat in my car outside the arena, still in my cap and gown, scrolling through my phone. That's when I saw it, photos of my family at a backyard barbecue that very moment. My mom holding a plate of ribs, my sister posting a boomerang of champagne clinking, captioned, "Family First." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. It felt like a punch to the gut. All I had ever wanted was for them to be proud of me. But then another thought surfaced. All year, I'd been quietly building something no one in my family knew about. My own startup. Nights, weekends, any spare hour I wasn't studying or working, I was designing, pitching, emailing investors. Last week, one of those investors wired $250,000 into my new business account. The paperwork was signed. The funding was real. I hadn't told anyone yet because I wanted to finish graduation first. Now, sitting there in the parking lot, I realized something. I'd been waiting for my family's validation before sharing my win. But they weren't here. They'd chosen ribs over my diploma. And in that moment, a switch flipped inside me. I didn't feel like crying anymore. I felt like owning my story. On my terms. I opened Instagram, my finger hovering over the Create Post button. In my camera roll were 2 photos, one of me on stage receiving my diploma and one of the signed funding agreement for my startup. Side by side, they told the real story of my past 4 years. I typed a caption, "Graduated today." Also, raised $250,000 to launch my company. Sometimes the people you think will show up don't, but you show up for yourself. I added a mic drop emoji and hit post. Within minutes, notifications exploded on my screen. Former classmates, professors, even one of my investors commented congratulations. Shares multiplied. My LinkedIn inbox filled with recruiters and journalists. While my family was still at their barbecue, my post was making the rounds online. I sat there, watching the likes climb, a bittersweet smile on my face. Graduation had turned into something else, a private heartbreak transformed into a public milestone. And for the first time that day, I felt proud, not just of the degree, but of the quiet grind that had led to this moment. I didn't know it yet, but my post was about to change everything between me and my family. The first few hours after posting my Graduation Plus startup announcement felt surreal. My phone buzzed non-stop. Old classmates I hadn't heard from in years messaged, "This is amazing." My professors reshared my post, calling me a model of resilience. Even one of the angel investors wrote, "Proud to back you. This is just the beginning." The validation I'd been craving for years suddenly poured in from everywhere, except the one place. I'd always hoped it would come from my family. It took 6 hours before my mom finally texted me. No congrats on graduating or "we're proud of you." Just a single line. "What's this about a company?" I stared at the screen, heart pounding, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. Then another message came in from my sister. "You raised $250K? Why didn't you tell us?" Followed by a third from my dad. "We need to talk." They didn't ask about the ceremony. They didn't apologize for missing it. They didn't even mention the photos from their barbecue. All they wanted to know about was the money. And in that moment I realized the power dynamic had shifted. For years I'd been the one chasing their approval. Now they were chasing information from me. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I poured myself into my startup full-time. My co-founder, Malik, and I worked out of a rented co-working space downtown. Our days blurred together. Product demos, investor calls, marketing plans, late-night debugging. It was exhausting but exhilarating, like building a rocket while already in flight. Every morning I'd check my phone and see another missed call from my parents. Every night, another guilt-tinged text. "We're worried about you. We just want to understand." Yet for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt focused. Still, I'd be lying if I said their absence didn't sting. At networking events, other founders introduced their parents as early supporters or mentors. I avoided the topic altogether. When journalists reached out for interviews about the funding round, they asked, "Who inspired you?" And I hesitated, not wanting to lie but not wanting to air family drama either. The tension inside me built like a pressure cooker, part pride, part hurt, part simmering anger. About a week after graduation, my mom called from an unknown number, clearly hoping I'd pick up. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was sugary sweet. "Honey, we're so proud of you. We didn't want to crowd you at graduation. You know how chaotic those events get. But now that you've raised all this money, maybe we can have a big family dinner to celebrate." My stomach clenched. She didn't even notice the slip. "Now that you've raised all this money." I told her I was busy but would think about it. After we hung up, I sat at my desk staring at my laptop, Malik watching me quietly. "Family stuff?" he asked. I nodded. They weren't there when it mattered. Now they want a piece of the story. Malik leaned back. "Then write the story on your terms." That became my mantra. Write the story on my terms. If they had skipped my graduation because of disinterest, convenience, or whatever reason, that was their choice. But I had a choice too, about how much of my new chapter they got to participate in. And I realized something important. My company wasn't just a business. It was proof I could build something from nothing. Proof I didn't need to be rescued. Proof I could be proud of myself, even if they never were. 2 weeks later, my startup launched its beta product. We threw a small launch party at the co-working space. Pizza boxes, a DIY photo backdrop, nothing fancy. Friends from college, mentors, and a few investors showed up. We live-streamed the event on Instagram. As I stood at the front giving my little speech, I caught myself scanning the door. A reflex I hated. No sign of my family. I told myself it didn't matter, but after the party, I checked my phone again. My sister had posted a story. A photo of my company's logo with the caption, "Proud Sibling Moment." She hadn't come to the launch, but she wanted to look supportive online. My parents, meanwhile, had emailed me a long message about how we should work together as a family to grow your business and how great it would be if you could hire your cousin who just graduated. I closed the email without replying. Inside, though, a plan was forming. Not a revenge plan fueled by anger, but a boundary plan fueled by clarity. If they truly wanted back into my life, they would have to show up differently. Not as critics, not as opportunists, but as people willing to respect what I'd built. And if they couldn't do that, then I'd keep moving forward without them. That night, Malik and I mapped out our next quarter on a whiteboard. Marketing campaigns, hiring timelines, product milestones. For the first time in years, my future didn't feel like a negotiation between my dreams and my family's expectations. It felt like mine. Completely mine. A few days later, my dad left me a voicemail. His tone was serious now, almost pleading. "We're sorry we missed your graduation. We messed up. We want to make things right. Can we meet?" I played the message twice, unsure how to feel. Part of me wanted to forgive instantly. Another part of me remembered every missed milestone, every snide remark about my silly little projects. This was the rising tension, not just between me and them, but inside me, between the hurt child and the independent adult. I decided not to rush my answer. Instead, I poured the emotion into my company's story. I gave an interview to a local newspaper about the funding round and the launch. When they asked about my graduation, I told the truth without bitterness. My family couldn't be there. But sometimes the people you expect to clap for you don't, and that can be the greatest motivation. The article went semi-viral. Comments flooded in from people who'd felt the same abandonment and turned it into drive. Reading them, I felt less alone. Meanwhile, my parents and sister began showing up in small, performative ways online, sharing my posts, tagging me in inspirational quotes, but they still hadn't said the words I needed to hear. Not, "We're proud of you for the money," but "We're proud of you for the work, the perseverance, the person I'd become." And that's where the tension sat, like a live wire, me moving forward, them trying to catch up, and a question hanging in the air. When they finally came to me in person, when they finally asked for a seat at the table I'd built, what would I do? Would I walk away, or would I rewrite the power dynamic forever? That choice, and the way I made it, would be the real turning point. It was 3 weeks after my graduation when my parents finally asked to meet in person. Not a phone call, not a Zoom, but an actual sit-down dinner. "We want to celebrate you," my mom texted. "Just us as a family." I chose a small, quiet restaurant near my co-working space. No distractions, no easy escapes. When I walked in, they were already seated. My sister scrolling on her phone, my dad nervously folding and unfolding his napkin. For a moment, looking at them felt like stepping back into my teenage years, except now I was the one arriving late from a long day of work, not them. They started with compliments. How impressive my company sounded. How innovative my ideas were. My mom reached across the table, squeezed my hand and said, "We're so proud of you." But it was the kind of pride that felt transactional. I'd heard it before. When my sister won awards, when my dad closed deals, it was pride in results, not in me. I let them talk. Then I took out my phone and pulled up 2 photos. One of my empty chair at graduation, the other of the family barbecue they'd posted that same day. I placed the phone on the table, screen facing up. The air went still. "I waited for you at graduation," I said quietly. "I saved you seats. I scanned the crowd for your faces. You weren't there, but you were here." I tapped the photo of the barbecue. "And now, after 4 years of silence about my work, you're here again. Because there's money involved." My sister shifted uncomfortably. My dad opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "We didn't mean to hurt you," he said. "We didn't realize how important it was." "That's exactly the point," I replied. "You didn't realize. You didn't ask. You didn't show up. But when there's a check to be signed or a company to attach your name to, suddenly you're interested." I wasn't angry. My voice stayed calm. In a way, that scared them more than yelling would have. "I'm not here to cut you out," I continued. "I'm here to set boundaries. This company is mine. It's built on my late nights, my loans, my sweat. If you want to be part of my life, show up when there isn't a headline. Don't ask for a seat at the table I built until you've earned back my trust. Silence again. My mom's eyes welled up. My dad nodded slowly. For the first time, my sister put her phone away and whispered, "I'm sorry." I stood up, leaving enough cash to cover my meal. "I'll always be your son," I said. "But from now on, I'm also my own person. Respect that, and maybe we can start over." And then I walked out, not slamming the door, not making a scene, just leaving with the quiet dignity I'd spent 4 years building. The night of the dinner, I didn't go home right away. I walked the long way back to my apartment through the city streets that had become my campus, my office, my testing ground. Neon signs glowed in puddles on the sidewalk. My head was buzzing, but not from anger, from release. For the first time in years, I'd said exactly what I felt without apologizing for it. In the following weeks, something strange happened. Silence. No texts from my parents, no cheerful memes from my sister, no vague requests for help with networking, just silence. And in that quiet space, I realized how heavy the old pattern had been, the constant sense that I owed them proof of my worth. Without that weight, my days felt lighter, more focused. The company was growing fast. Investors were excited. Our beta users loved the product. And for the first time, I could afford to hire 2 full-time employees instead of juggling contractors. But even as I celebrated the small wins, a part of me wondered, would my family try again? And if they did, would I let them back in? About a month later, an envelope arrived at my office. Inside was a handwritten letter from my dad. No business cards tucked inside, no requests for introductions. Just a few paragraphs in his square, careful handwriting. "We should have been there. We failed you. I'm sorry. We are proud of you. Not for the money, but for the person you've become. If you ever want to have dinner again, we'd like to listen this time." I read it twice. The cynic in me whispered that it was a tactic. But another part, the part of me that still remembered my dad teaching me how to ride a bike in the driveway, felt something soften. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I set up a few more boundaries. A shared calendar link for family visits. Clear rules about no business talk during dinners. No introductions or favors until trust was rebuilt. If they truly wanted to be part of my life, they'd show it over time, not in a single apology. And slowly, over months, they did. My mom started coming to our demo days quietly, sitting in the back row and clapping. My sister sent a text on a random Tuesday. "Thinking about you. Congrats on the launch. No asks. Just presence." We weren't magically healed, but for the first time, the relationship felt real. Not built on guilt or leverage, but on respect. They had seen the consequences of their absence and the strength of my independence, and now they were willing to meet me on equal ground. Looking back, the night of my graduation became a turning point, but not in the way I'd expected. The pain of their absence pushed me to build something of my own, but it also gave me a choice, to repeat the cycle of resentment or to break it with boundaries and dignity. I chose the second path, and in doing so, I discovered a truth that no diploma or funding round could give me. Success means nothing if it still leaves you seeking approval from people who don't show up. Real success is building a life where you set the terms, and where the people you love choose to be there because they value you, not because they need you. On the anniversary of my startup launch, I posted a photo on social media. Not of the product or the office, but of me and my parents at a small cafe, smiling. A quiet reunion, no captions about funding or revenge, just 3 people sharing coffee. It was the most liked post I'd ever made. And as I hit share, I realized something. My story had started as one of hurt and triumph, but it was ending, at least this chapter, as one of clarity and peace. The mic drop wasn't the $250K announcement. The real mic drop was learning to stand up for myself without shutting the door forever.